Okay, it's 5 o'clock. So if anyone is new to the webinar that have just clicked on, welcome along to the Tourism Awards information session. I'm Sam, this is Grace. Hopefully you can see us both. So can I just get a show of hands? If you can click the raise hand button, please, particularly if you've just arrived, just to let me know that you can hear okay and you can see okay. Excellent, I'll take that as great. Everyone's raising their hands. Perfect. Okay, you can put your hands down now. Thanks. Okay, I'm going to share my screen because it's got a PowerPoint presentation on it that covers all the changes. So this session is, like the title says, 8 changes you need to know for 2021. So the people who are watching this webinar are either here because you have entered the awards before and you want to know what's changed, or you've been involved in the first session we just did and want to stick around because you're keen and you want to know what's changed for this year. Either way, this is just a half-hour session on things that are important to know. Don't just go off and enter again because it's not the same as it used to be last year or the year before, sorry. It won't take very long, and Grace and I are going to stick around for questions at the end, and we'll stick around till as long as we need to. At the end of the presentation, Grace's contact details are going to be there for you. But if you don't know Grace, she's not hard to find. Just go to the TICT website. And if any of you have entered before and are used to dealing with me, Grace now has that email, and I'm around as well. So, right, let's get into it. 8 changes you need to know for 2021. It used to be 5, but I realised that I could spread them out and make it 8, make it a bit easier. Okay, so let's click the change button. Okay, number 1, great news. The entry fee has been halved. If you're an accredited business, which most of you are accredited, you would already have enjoyed having your accreditation fee waived for last year. This is the TICT trying very hard to find ways to make things easy for you. So we've decided to halve the entry fee. So for 99 bucks, it's not a bad, cheap way to enter the awards this year if you haven't before, or if you have before, congratulations, it's half price, you can enter twice. Or not, it's up to you. So a major difference this year, and everybody needs to know this, even the people from the first session, hopefully you're still here. If you're not, hopefully you watch this later. The qualifying period for this year and this year only is a 2-year period. And this gives you the chance to talk about all the things you've been dealing with and how you've managed them over the last 2 years. And the reason for that is because everybody in the tourism industry across Australia has been affected in different ways at different times. And there's been more than just COVID-19, there's also been flooding and fires in other parts of the country that has impacted greatly on a business in a particular area. Maybe it's your business. So this extension of the qualifying period gives you the chance to talk about all the stuff you've been through over the last 2 years. And we've always dealt with a financial year period that hasn't changed, except for the fact this particular year, it's from the 1st of July 2019 through to the 30th of June 2021. Now, we don't need you to talk about business if you were closed during 1920. It's only if you've got something to say in that period. So if you reopened in August 2020 and you've got nothing to say before that, then we'll just be focusing on that period of reopening. And that's all made a bit clearer when you look at the question categories. So everything is still the same in that you need to download the category you want to enter. This is an example of a question sheet. I printed it out. You don't need to do that. I don't print much anymore. I like to keep things on my screen, but this is a printed version. You will see a big change, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, is the introduction here is the COVID. You can't see that because I've got blur on, sorry. It's the COVID-19 impacts that are worth 0 marks, but they ask you to talk about what's happened in that 2-year period. So this is where you get the chance to explain at what point you did and didn't operate, and it will just help the judges understand what you're going to be talking about in your submission. But I'm going to go through that a bit more in one of my next points. So the qualifying period, in a nutshell, is for 2 years. and only for this year. Next year, when you enter the awards, it's for the 12-month period, as it always has been and will continue to be after this. Hopefully we don't have this situation again. It's a bit unusual. Cool. The word count. Now, as another reflection and acknowledgement of the fact that business has been tricky, if the people who asked the questions in the earlier session are still around, we removed the question this year only about sustainability. That's mainly because of the discussion around the fact that we think you probably haven't been as focused on your environmental impact, the sustainability of your business like you normally would, benchmarking. It's all gone out the window. So that question's been removed temporarily, which means that the word count has also been reduced to allow for that 2,000 words to disappear for this particular year only. And this year, the submission word count total is 8,000 words in all categories. Previously, the only category that had an 8,000 word limit was food tourism. Now all the categories are 8,000 words for this year only. So you're going to need to potentially alter the way you answer questions because the questions are different. You might need to do a lot more dot pointing. The way you've answered the questions in the past is not the way you're going to answer them this time in many cases, because there's so much different things, so many different things that have happened in your business, and we are really focusing on your ability to survive the last 12, 24 months and what you've done, showing your resilience, what you've innovated and all that sort of stuff. It's much more about that and telling your story and how you've survived it rather than the usual run-of-the-mill award submission entry. So that might change the way you answer questions. The categories, there's always changes. We always tinker with these categories. And again, there's been more tinkering, no major overhaul. Like we'd hoped. We put a lot of time and effort into overhauling the system, but at a national level, there's resistance to it. So we have tinkered again, and this is what we've ended up with. So the category formerly known as Specialised Tourism Services, which was essentially the miscellaneous category. It was the catch-all. If you didn't fit into one of the other categories, you ended up in that one because it was special. It meant a lot of businesses were competing against random businesses that, that it didn't really make sense. So at a national level, it was decided to remove that category and completely redo it and focus on retail and hire services. Around the country, it appeared that after doing an audit of how many businesses might fit into that category, there was enough reason for that to be renamed and focused on that particular area. So tourism, retail and hire. Formerly destination marketing is now tourism marketing and campaigns, which hopefully means to those of you who do marketing campaigns as a business, you are now more attracted to enter that category because you want to know what marketing campaigns you've done. Because before it used to be really aimed at RTOs or LTOs or LTAs, regional tourism organisations, destination marketing organisations who focused on the destination. So it's not about that anymore. It's not about the destination, even though it still is. It's the name of the category is now more in line with any business or organisation or group that does marketing campaigns specifically for tourism. So not major changes, but the name of the category hopefully means that it opens it up to other businesses. And the accommodation, we have been talking about these accommodation categories for so many years, and we've never been able to find better words to describe standard, deluxe and luxury. So in lieu of that, because there was lots of confusion in the consumer world around what standard was and what the difference between deluxe and luxury were, that we went with the pure and simple star ratings. So you are going to be a 3 to 3.5 star property, a 4 to 4.5 star property, or a 5-star property. You don't decide that. Star ratings in the portal decides that for you based on your input. So most of you will have done that. If you haven't and you're not sure what to do, Grace will talk you through that because Grace knows all about the portal and star ratings. And like I mentioned in the previous workshop, you have to go through that star rating process to be able to enter that category. because the system needs to tell you which star rating you are, and then therefore you can nominate for that category. You don't have to pay for it, and you don't get the site visit if you don't want it. We would encourage you to do that, because being able to say to a consumer that you're a 4.5 star property or whatever you are makes sense, and you can then use the logo that says you're a 4.5 star rated property, whatever. Not everybody loves this. There are some businesses that think that the star rating doesn't reflect what they offer. That, unfortunately, I can't help you with. You can have a conversation with Grace around that, because she's far more across the star ratings. In fact, I've got no idea. So just talk to Grace around that. But this basically means that there's no confusion anymore. We're not going to get 4-star businesses entering standard anymore, because that happened, because the businesses that enter have self-rated, and they've been able to enter because they said so. That's gone now. You need to go through the star rating process for it to tell you where you sit, and then you have to enter that category. No further questions entered into. So it is what it is, and hopefully we'll all find our spot. And that's categories renamed. Number 5, question changes. We spent lots and lots and lots of time at a national level talking about what the questions should be this year. So this year, and this year alone, the questions have changed to reflect the exceptional circumstances. The qualifying period's longer, the focus is different, we're focusing on resilience and innovation, and the questions have been changed a lot to reflect that. So when you get a chance to go into the website and find your category and download the questions, you'll find a lot of differences than previously. For example, there used to be 5 question categories, and within that there were multiple questions underneath. So you might have question 3, A, B, C and D. In fact, there was even an E. Those have all gone now, and they are all wrapped up into one question, which hopefully will give you the opportunity to talk without feeling like you're duplicating. There was a lot of issues around that in the past, where you may have needed a bit of information in a certain question, but you put it in the wrong part of the question. That will be gone now. All of question 3 is about marketing. So your entire marketing bit will fit into one question. So you don't have to worry about ensuring you've covered all the bits that are required for that part of the question. So question for the majority of categories, not for all of them. So this only speaks to the majority. I've printed off major tourist attractions here in front of me, but the question is the same across the majority of categories. Question 1 is an introduction, and the whole question is worth 20 marks. And it says, please provide an overview of your tourism products, experiences and services, including the nature and history of the business. How does your business demonstrate tourism excellence? So there are multiple parts to that, but it's all in the same question. So essentially, if you look at it with a fine-tooth comb, you'll find that all of those various parts that were broken up are now all just into the one question. So it's the same stuff all in one question. So if you've entered before, you'll understand what I mean. If you haven't, then don't worry about it too much. It is pretty clear when you look at the questions what they're asking for. You'll also see when you download the sheet, the category sheet, that half a page or more is allocated to the guidelines, to helping you know what they're looking for. So hopefully you'll find that makes it a lot easier. Duplication is completely gone. Answer the question nice and easy. Use your dot points, use your subheadings, use your pictures to break it all up, because it's a much longer answer. But essentially that'll make life easier for you guys. Number 5. So a new thing just for this year only is the first part of your submission will be asking you to fill in a COVID-19 introduction. So they want you to write some words. I can't remember what the word count is for that, to be honest, but we'll work that out. They're looking for you to write, to explain to the judges, to set the scene, what your business has gone through as a result of COVID-19 and any other thing that's impacted your business. So if you had a fire that closed you down or burnt some of your business down or whatever, this is the period, this is the bit in the submission that you can tell the judges what's happened. There's no marks associated to it. It's a scene setting opportunity. It just means you don't then have to explain why you've done certain things throughout the rest of the submission. It's because the judges have already read, okay, we get it, we get you, we're closed for that period. You don't have to keep telling us. So just write it all in that bit and save all the good stuff for your answer. So it sets the scene only. That's hopefully makes sense there. And there's 3 questions that they want you to answer. They want to know when you were operational. So at what point were you closed? Because that matters. They want to know what restrictions were placed on you. So if you're an event, tell us what restrictions. And remember, this is a national submission. Every state handled restrictions differently. So Victoria, they're going to answer things very different than Tasmania and so on. And then they want to know, describe the impact of travel restrictions on your business, i.e. border closures, etc. So it's very factual. You don't have to tell a story. You don't have to weave amazing narrative into it. It's just, this is what happened to me, and this is what we did. No, sorry, this is the situation. And then you spend the rest of the submission talking about what you did as a result. Hopefully that makes sense. Number 7, new additions to the scoring. So we talked about this in the previous workshop, but for those of you who have just joined, the new additions to the scoring basically mean the submission is now worth less than it used to be, and an online review is worth between 5 and 10 points, depending on your category, and a consumer rating score is now also worth between 0 and 10 points, depending on your category. So the event categories don't have a consumer rating, but the rest of the categories do. Marketing also doesn't have it because consumers don't rate marketing, but the other categories do. So you need to work out on the last page of the sheets, when you download your category sheets, it'll say, again, I've got major tourist attraction printed off here. In major tourist attraction, the submission score is worth 70, the online review is worth 10, and the consumer rating is worth 20. That actually equals 100, and that's not always the case. There are many categories where it only equals 85 or 90 or whatever. So don't get too worried about that if when you print when you look at your question sheet and you add them up, you realise it's not 100, it's not about that. There's reasons, and I've forgotten what they are. It's not relevant, but it is what it is. And it's been determined that, for example, I think it's event categories are worth 95 for the submission, and that's it. Or there might be an online review, but each category is different. And if you are looking at entering different categories, understand that there might be differences across the points for each of those things. So the online review is nothing you need to do. You just need to be aware that it's happening. So if your website isn't particularly good, you've got several months to fix it. We will give you a list of what we're looking for. Well, what Grace is looking for, because it's literally a yes, no, yes, no. Do you have this? Do you not? Do you have a call to action? Do you have a very clear contact details? Can you book online, etc., etc. There's a whole bunch of things that we're going to be looking for, and it's a yes or no answer. You'll get that in advance, so you'll have time to fix it if you need to. But don't worry about that too much. It is worth points though. So you are going to be judged on the way you present online. The other thing you can influence is your consumer rating score. So everybody has a consumer rating score. You've all been reviewed at some point, unless you're a new business. If you're new, you won't be doing that. But the rest of the categories, minus a couple of them, will have a consumer rating score, which is going to be determined via Review Pro. And Review Pro is an aggregator which basically looks at Facebook, TripAdvisor, Booking.com, etc., etc. Multiple review platforms where consumers have reviewed and rated you, and you'll get a global, I keep forgetting what it is again, the Global Review Index or something, GRI score. If you're not sure how that works, Grace is your person to talk to about that, and you can access that through the portal, and Grace will walk you through that separately from this. But it is important that you understand that submission is now only one element of your entire business submission. There's an online review, there's a consumer rating, and there's a site visit, and they all make a difference. And like I've said, they're weighted differently across various categories. So you need to know what your category, what the specifications are for your particular category. And like I said, it's on the final page of the category sheet. If you want to know whether you are going to have a site visit or not, that is all written up in the rules and regulations page. And you can download that or read that online on the website too. Because again, your category is your category and you need to know what happens just for your category. I'm not going to read them all out today. If you have any questions about that, just feel free to ask either at the end or privately afterwards. Number 8, this is the final one. It's a nice way to finish the changes because there's a new award that's been created at a national level, which will be determined by a select group of national judges. And it's going to recognise one of the national finalists who has demonstrated great resilience. So like I said, this year is not about success in terms of sales figures, customer numbers, revenue, any of that. It's about businesses that have done well, that have pivoted, diversified, survived, innovated, shown extreme courage and determination, all those things that basically mean you've been able to deal with what's happened in the world, or even if you didn't initially deal with it and you found ways to overcome the troubles that have happened. We want to hear your story because we're looking for the businesses that can show great leadership and great resilience. And yeah, you don't get to enter this one. This will be determined at a national level and awarded at the nationals in March next year. So that is it for changes. That didn't take even half an hour. That took 22 minutes, which means that if you're still on the line and you've got questions, please type them in the Q&A now. We're not going to ask you to raise your hand and speak them. You need to type them so that we can read them out and answer them. Those of you who are here that have any questions you don't want to ask and have read out, that's fine. Save them and send them through to Grace. There's her details. So tourismawards@tict.com has been the consistent email address over the past many, many years. And now Grace has got it, so she will answer your questions. You'll see me again at the Entrant Workshops and in mentoring if you get given me for whatever reason. Grace will be the one sending confirmations, requesting information, whatever. But together we're here to help you. And if Grace can't answer it, I can. If I can't, Grace can. If neither of us can, we go up to the national body, which is ATIC, and we get advice from them. We also have a chair of judges and auditors. There's always somebody who can help, so don't hesitate to ask. So in saying that, I'm waiting for questions to come through, so please keep typing them. Oh, that's an excellent question. Sorry, I got distracted because I was reading one. What if you don't have a hard luck story and things have been going well? Well, lucky you. And in fact, I know I say that with a smile, but there are some businesses out there that have actually been doing well. And that is, it's a weird thing to be really happy for you because there are businesses out there that haven't been doing so well. But if you've done well, we still need to know how you've been impacted, because whether you've been doing well, you have been impacted. And whether it's through a combination of sheer luck or excellent decision-making or a combination of the two, we still need to hear your story. And of course, we want to celebrate your success. Of course, we want to see some great results. But just remember, that is not the be-all and end-all. It certainly won't be for this year. Maybe in the future, as things kind of return to normal, it will be. But it's important that we are realistic about the fact that not everybody has had successes. So if you have, that's awesome, but don't hang your hat on that. That is not going to make you a winner in this particular year particularly. It will be great, but we are really looking for the businesses that can show what they've done in the face of adversity. And if that means you've done really well, then that's awesome. But just bear in mind, you'll be in a category where there are businesses that haven't done well. And if you win that category at state level, you're going to be at national level where you're going to be up against someone who may not have done well either. So we're looking for a bit of humble response writing and acknowledgement that things haven't been ideal across the board. If you've been doing well, what have you done to help others? How has your success been something that you've been able to share and help other businesses with? Maybe you've had some success because someone's helped you. So that's the sort of story we're looking for. So
I think it's important to say there that, Sam, that we've talked about it before, but you get mentoring through the whole way as well, don't you? You don't have to just kind of guess if your answer is going to be a good one or whatever it is. So the mentors that you're paired with will be able to talk you through that sort of
absolutely
stuff.
Yeah, and we can talk about those sort of things through the entrant workshops too. So the entrant workshops are going to be a meeting rather than a webinar, so we'll actually see your faces on the screen. Some of them will be, some of them won't be actually. There's dates already set for some of those entrant workshops, and there might be more coming because whatever reason, it means we can do more online rather than having to travel around the state. So we can deal with some of those questions throughout the process as well as during mentoring sessions. So if anyone's not sure, then it's nice to have a group work these things out. It's also nice to keep it private with a one-on-one session. So it depends on how you want to do it. I better go back to the questions. Have we got any other questions sitting there? No, everyone's quiet. What other things haven't we covered, Grace? I feel like past entrants need to be aware that it's very different this year, and it's only going to be different for this year. It'll go back next year to the way it used to be with the multiple part questions, with more emphasis on benchmarking, comparing your successes and results with other years. But this year it's not so much about that because the impacts across the board are too great to be able to benchmark and compare. So we're really looking about what you've done during this period. Question, is it still allowed that outsiders are permitted to submit? Can you explain what you mean by an outsider? Outsider. What do you think he means by that? Keep typing. Trying to work out what you mean. And I want to ask you to speak it, but I don't think so. I'm going to come back to that because hopefully you're typing me some more information and someone else has asked a question. I hear that you're being stricter about who goes in which star category, correct? Will you be similarly looking at whether entrants are going in the right category with others? Is unique actually unique? Is adventure actually adventure? That is not up to us, that's up to the judges. However, to avoid you wasting your time and entering a category and then being told right at the end that you weren't actually eligible, Grace and maybe I will get involved there. We'll actually talk you through, if we look at your nomination and think that you're in the wrong category, it's a case of contacting you and going, are you really an adventure or are you a tour and transport? What exactly is it about you that is adventure? And in the stricter sense of the word adventure, are you soft adventure? Are you hard adventure? And what is adventure? Like, you know, some people think a short walk is adventurous. And if that's the case, then you can enter adventure. So I don't know if that answers your question, but no, it's not our job, it's not Grace's job to stop people from entering categories, but we will look for red flags that go, hang on, that doesn't seem quite right. Doesn't sound like that's the right business for that category. Look into it, talk to you. But at the end of the day, it's your submission, your wasted time if you insist on entering the wrong category, because the judges are going to say, nah, wrong category, and you'll get marked down. If needs be, we'll bring the chair of judges in to help decide on that. But ideally, it's up to the judges to say, I mean, I've had questions about this before around tour operators entering categories, adventure tour operators. If you weren't here in the first part of that, I'll repeat what I said. As a tour company, for example, this is a good example because tour companies can enter multiple categories. So if you are a walking company and you take guided walks, you are able to enter adventure tourism, tour and transport, because you're a tour company, and or ecotourism if you are an ecotourism operator. You can pick to enter all three of those if you think that you fit. And I want to remind you, if you weren't in the first part, that if you think that you're eligible to enter all three, that's fine. You can enter all three. However, you have to write 3 very different submissions, and you have to treat each submission as an individual entry, because you need to respond to the questions so that the judges can see that this is why you're an ecotourism operator. These are the eco things that you do. And you need to explain how that fits. If you're going to enter tour and transport, be aware that you're up against generic tour and transport operators, and how will you beat them in that category. So if you feel like you can win it, go for it. It's not up to us to say don't, but you need to be aware that if you're entering multiple categories, there are multiple submissions needed, and the judges need to be convinced in your submission that you are eligible for that category. So if you want to talk that through, you feel free to talk to me or Grace about that. And if needs be, we'll get a ruling from the chair of judges or the national coordinator. So hopefully that helps. I'm going back to that question around outsiders permitted to submit. Okay, I thought that's what you meant, but I didn't want to assume. So there's always been an issue with businesses paying people to write the submission for them. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If people want to win so badly that they want to pay somebody to do it, then they are welcome to do that. If people know that they are a terrible writer, that they are too busy doing so many other things to put the time into this, or whatever the reason is, yes, of course, you are able to outsource the writing of your submission to another person. We can't stop you doing that. And if that's what you want to do, that's absolutely fine. That person, though, takes a lot of work. You can't just handball the writing of a submission. There's so much information in your head and in your business that you would need to supply that person. In most cases, you might as well do it yourself, because that only you know the answers to all these questions, and you have to spend time transferring that knowledge to the writer that you're paying. So yes, of course, you can pay somebody to write your submission, but if you look, and I'm happy to be able to tell you this, but if you look at the past winners over the years, not even this particular year, which is a special year, it's not always the people that outsource their submissions. In fact, I'm not going to tell you who they are, but some of the best winners we've got write their own submissions, and they are responsive. They are submissions that are unique to that person's voice. We get the sense of passion in the writing. We get the sense that they care deeply about their business, and that these are the experiences they've had in their business, which a writer can't necessarily do. So it's up to you. When you call them an outsider, I know what you mean now. That just means they're not the business owner. It's a writer. Yes, we still allow that, of course. We can't stop that. Where's my mouse? Who haven't I answered? Anyone else got anything about this year? I think the main point to reiterate, particularly to past entrants who are re-entering this year, is it's very different. You will need to adjust the way you write, the way you answer. 2 years has passed since we had an award, so anything you've written in the past that may have been tempting to cut and paste, you'll need to look at seriously as to whether you need to rewrite it. But this opens the playing field up to all the other businesses that haven't entered or haven't entered for a while, because now everybody's at the same position, and now everybody has to think about how they can stand out in the crowd and how you can look different and impress the judges about how amazing you've been over the last 24 months, as opposed to someone who enters every year with the same style of entry. That's not going to be the case this year. So, is that it? We got everybody covered? I'm reluctant to turn it off in case we get a last minute question. However, just note that Grace's email and phone are on the screen right now. If she can't help you, I will. Grace will ask any tricky questions, simply because I've been around for a number of years, and it takes a bit of time to get your head around the intricacies of the awards. It's pretty much a year-long process to do. And if you're not sure at all, feel free to ask questions. If you want to watch this again, I'm recording it, so I'll press stop in a second. We'll make this available to anybody that missed the sessions. What else? That's about it. That's all I can think of. No more questions have come in, so we'll sign off. Grace, got anything you want to add?
I don't think so, but as Sam mentioned, feel free to contact me if you do have any questions moving forward.
Thanks for your time, everybody. Going to stop recording right now, and see you out there. Feel free to ask questions.